Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and in partnership with Vertical Valor Magazine. In this two-part series, I sit down with members of the Maryland State Police at the ECHO 2024 conference in Richmond, Virginia. Thank you to the Virginia State Police for allowing us to record this episode inside their hangar. During the conversation, we discussed the importance of networking and education in public safety. We discussed their personal journeys into aviation and law enforcement. Our guests share insights on their roles as trooper paramedics, the challenges of maintaining proficiency in a large unit, and the unique considerations involved in transporting and caring for canines. The discussion highlights the significance of collaboration among agencies during emergencies and the value of training and experience in the field. This conversation explores the various aspects of public safety aviation, focusing on canine transportation missions, recruitment and retention challenges, paramedic training, multi-agency responses, and DUI enforcement experiences. Our guests share insights from their military backgrounds and discuss the complexities of operations involving the Coast Guard and other agencies. Thank you to our sponsors, Metro Aviation, BLR Aerospace, and Robinson Helicopter Company.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Join your host, Jon Gray, Jeff Ratkovich, and Jack Shanley.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
4 on the stop. You're in custody.
They're advising code 4 on the stop.
Going back to your Chinook time, we talked about how that shaped your career. Having that experience in a crewed aircraft, man, that must have come in big when you switched aircraft.
It has. It's we don't, because of the way the Army trains crew members. They initially start as in the maintenance side because they're a flying mechanic, among other things. But the air crew portion is much heavier than we do, and for a variety of reasons. So, that's the balance for our MSP guys is, what's the priority, and it shifts depending on the mission. I'm a paramedic right now. I'm an aircrew member second because I'm working in the back on trying to save this guy's life. So if you don't need me, I'm otherwise busy, or I'm coming into the scene. So I'm stepping up my aircrew role to clear the aircraft, open up the doors, look at the LZ. So they shift, and we've gotten better as people have come in to try and make that better at being more of a standardized aircrew member. The Army, everything is some sort of standard, to work off of. So it's been hit and miss sometimes because different people do it better, and we have some people from different backgrounds, both on the pilot side and on the crew member side. So I had a story. We have one of our crew members is a Chinook backseater in Trooper 3, and he and I were out flying, and I'd totally forgotten about that, and we're coming into a landing area. And I'm getting an evaluation from our chief pilot at the time, and we're landing at a pretty decent slope area. And the limitations on the 139, it's got a little kind of not a very robust landing gear, so it has pretty small slope landing limitations. So I'm coming in to land in this sloping terrain, and the crew member in the back he chimes in goes right into Army mode without even thinking. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what he's saying. Yeah. He's using terminology that I am routinely, listening to. So we landed on this thing, which was right at the edge of our slope limitations, but it was very comforting. I'm like, I know what I'm listening to now.
Yeah, nice having that familiarity with the language and all that stuff. That's cool. In patrol, outside of patrol, I should say, what special operations assignments are available? Obviously, aviation's one of them, but what else can you do?
Absolutely everything.
Canine, SWAT, dive team. The Office of the State Fire Marshal is a division, or it's part of the state police. And so, they have, that's their own little thing for arson investigation, for bombs. They have their own canines units, their own dive team. So they're a separate agency, but they're under the Department of State Police. similar, but
That's a pretty unique assignment there.
And there's a, I mean, a lot of times we provide the specialty resources for a lot of places. So, our SWAT team is pretty active, going all over the place and supporting whoever it needs to do. We've got in our criminal enforcement division, we have guys that do, all sorts of electronic services and things like that, and electronic surveillance and stuff. So it's pretty diverse. There's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah, I remember one thing, being in patrol at the barrack, and some guys would come in with either a big bag of dope or money, and you start talking to them, and then you realize, hey, what unit is that guy work for? You go back up and ask him, and it's something that we don't even advertise. Mm-hmm. And it's some random federal task force or, something we have a few guys on. So
I always felt like the highway interdiction stuff was a lot of fun. Pulling a car over and there's dope in there. It's just, you just got to find it.
Yeah.
Figuring out the trapdoor systems and all that I thought was really interesting. Is that, a big part of your interdiction team?
Yeah. So we have the proactive criminal enforcement. It's PACE. It just recently got restructured a little bit with some of the staffing deficiencies. But that was roughly 15 to 20 guys and gals, a couple canines full-time assigned to them. And they worked, all the Fed stuff, but pretty much 95, and then some Eastern Shore corridors for the dope, money, human trafficking.
Yeah, let's go back to the agencies like yours that have all these variety of assignments. It really makes your career interesting. Of course, not for us in aviation because we go there and want to stay, but for those that aren't in aviation, man, it's just nice to know that every couple of years, if you wanted to, you could pick either a new barracks or division to work in or a new specialty assignment. Like that's what makes, to me, a career interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we've got guys that have gone out and they've been a canine handler and been, all sorts of stuff before they eventually come to aviation. I mean, and some of these guys then, even within aviation, we also have a subset of us that are qualified as tactical medics. So, you also have that as an option. So there's all sorts of things you can get into.
Yeah, very cool. I love those conversations. And I think when it comes to recruitment, those are the kind of things, if I was a young aspiring police officer, I'd want to look for those kind of agencies, I didn't really know what I was looking for. I started with San Diego PD in California, and I just knew I liked the city of San Diego, so that's where I applied. I didn't know, at that age, we talked about the importance of retirement plans and all those things. Like, I had no idea that that's something I should consider and look at when it came to the research that goes into applying for these jobs. So hopefully some of these kids that are listening could take those into consideration, not just the specialty assignments that are available, but retirement, healthcare, all those things that, as you get older in your career, become of paramount importance, Right. So going back to enforcement, you've got a pretty impressive history with DUI enforcements. Can you talk about that record and kind of how you went down that path and started to kind of make that your area of expertise?
Yeah, gladly. I think just something to get out there, the state police is pretty supportive of whatever you want to do, as long as it involves, and I'm speaking in patrol, as long as it involves getting bad people off the street. It doesn't matter if it's dope, warrants, guns, DUIs. So I remember early on at the barrack commander that I initially got assigned to in PG was very, very heavy on the DUIs. So that was kind of the path I chose, and just went down that path. Night shift, our early night shift is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then late shift also was 2 p.m. to midnight. So those two shifts, were definitely a good opportunity to grab DUIs. And then even on early shift, you're 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. You're 8, 9 a.m. Emers. But so I kind of got on that train. I pretty strongly feel that DUI enforcement is kind of the one thing that we can always positively know is you're going to save somebody's life. It may not be that time. It may not be the next time, but when they hit and kill a family of 4, or somebody coming home from the hospital, or just some terrible situation like that, it's something we can always prevent. So worked pretty hard with that. And then over the 4 years I was in patrol, the Maryland Highway Safety Office, if you get over 30 DUIs per year, they'll bring you out for a little luncheon and just kind of recognize you. So that's how that went.
And I'll pause you there. You got the award for 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Is that the award?
Yep.
Recognition of? That's impressive.
It also kind of wraps into the Washington Regional Alcohol Program and then Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Those 3 agencies work together just to just to try and give people, between all the social media and all the ways we can get messages out to people, like, hey, you're going out this weekend, take a free Uber.
I remember the tail end of my patrol career, I get so tired of dealing with alcohol-related calls for service.
Yeah.
Just about every time you end up on a call like that, you're getting in a fight with somebody, or they're doing something completely stupid or really funny. Of all those arrests, any memorable DUIs that stand out that were outlandish for some reason?
I had transferred to the Annapolis Barrack in Anne Arundel County, and the Annapolis Barrack is maybe a half a mile from Annapolis PD. And these two silly guys somehow found a way both to get DUIs in under a couple hours. First car, all over the road. He, did the whole trying to get home before I could stop him, was able to stop him. Didn't pass field sobriety, took him back, thought it was going to be a quick release him, somebody come pick him up from the barrack, and easy night. Gave me a fake name, had a bunch of warrants for open cases, stuff like that. It was his 6th or 7th DUI. So, of course, I didn't release him, take him over to DOC. And then on the way back, I actually went over to his house, towed his car because of lying, the priors and stuff like that. So when he gets released from DOC in 2 hours, he can't go get another DUI. And, I'm sitting there talking to the tow truck driver, and some bonehead at 4 or 5 in the morning decides to back his truck up and show us all these burnouts in front of us. So, of course, wait for him to do something even sillier, blows a couple lights, pull him over, and sure enough, he's also drunk. So, with, open bottle and all that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just, 20 feet, 20, 50 feet from the police station, and still.
Yeah, we don't catch the smart ones oftentimes.
Still able to do that now.
Oh. For you, looking at your patrol career, anything that stands out as interesting or funny? I know you said it was fairly short. But thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com.
Yeah, no, it was very short, but I mean, I feel the same way about like DUI enforcement. I tried to get, try to get better at finding those because, my time as a paramedic, you're always picking up the pieces. And I really feel strongly, and that's just one of the things that actually kind of attracted me to this job is the chance to actually maybe like stop and get somebody off the highway before they, wreck and cause some sort of life-altering event. But no, I mean, I had, there's one time I was driving home and this car is just behind me, tailgating the absolute crap out of my car. And, it's a marked police car. It's a big Crown Vic, says State Trooper on the back in reflective letters. I don't know how she could see anything around the car from how close she was to my bumper. So I pull over to the shoulder to let her go by, and she goes by and then pulls onto the shoulder in front of me. And I'm like, well, I haven't even turned on lights. This is going to be interesting. But then she doesn't stop, and she just keeps going. So now we're on the shoulder at like 30, and I'm like, what? So eventually I turn on the lights, and she pulls, takes a little bit, but then she pulls right into a fire station, and she pulls right across the front bay doors. And she's hammered. And so like she's like dancing during the field sobriety tests and just doing all these things. And I'm trying to keep it together and get through this. And I look over, and like on the glass, from the bay doors of the fire, there's like 10 fire guys. They've all gotten their popcorn, and they're all just sitting there like right on the other side of the glass, like, hey, this is fun. They're just enjoying the show. And I'm like, well, hopefully you guys don't get a call because her car is right in the middle of your apron, but it's all good. That's
funny.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Reno 911, the FSTs that female's given. And the guy starts dancing in the middle of the thing. That's what I picture when you're talking about that.
Yeah.
And the insanity doesn't end there. He was on a YouTube stunt.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Just happened would be you were in a parking lot, and
one of my jobs is to teach water egress. And so I taught water egress. I had a whole bunch of wet gear in my car, and then like 2 or 3 days later it smelled terrible. So I stopped by Home Depot to get like a dehumidifier to put in there, and I come out and there's some dudes chilling around my car that seemed suspicious. And so I'm going to put my stuff in and leave. And one of them comes up to me and goes, "Hey, sir, like, I'd like to talk to you." And not, you've been a cop, right? People just come up and talk to you. And so he's like, "Yeah, I need to show you something about my car." And I'm like, "Oh, he's going to ask me to sign off like a tag light or something like that." And he gets back around to the back of the car and he goes, "Well, I did something bad and I feel like I just need to confess. I beat up my friend. I put him, forced him into the trunk of the car." And I'm like, "So you're telling me that you put your friend into this car against his will?" And he's like, "Yeah." And at this point, somebody starts banging on the inside going, "Let me out."
And somebody's recording this, for posterity and YouTube purposes, of course.
So I immediately just, I was like, "Turn around, put your hands behind your back." Because the other thing is I had seen him standing around with 2 other people and now they were gone. So I didn't know, officer safety wise, where they went. So I put him in cuffs and I call it out to the Baltimore City because that's where I was and I was off duty. And so I, called them out and I guess it was a slow day because they sent the world. And everybody just comes in screeching from different corners and the news helicopter comes over and then we pop the trunk and I'm like, "Yeah, it's that guy." And then his buddy comes out from the bushes who was filming the whole thing for a prank. And I'm just like, get out of here, guys.
That sucks.
Yeah.
No,
Well, you look professional the whole time.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I've been told my pants were too orange, but
It's perspective.
I get sent that video every couple months of like
resurfaces.
Yeah. Somebody's like, "Hey, was this you?" "Yeah, it's me."
I'm sure when this airs, you'll get a resurgence.
I'll get a lot more of them. Yep. I'm gonna help out their YouTube channel with a couple more 100,000 views.
Well, we've talked about your agency now, and we've talked a bit about your aviation program, but let's go a little bit deeper into some of the details of the program. Well, we talked about the size, but personnel-wise, would you say it was two something?
So we have about 180 people. So maybe more probably heavily on the civilian side because we have our maintainers as well as our pilots. So I'd say it's 60% civilian and 40% sworn as a ballpark. 7 sections, 7 locations across the state. Each location is generally within about 15 minutes, overlap to the second up. So if one section is out doing a medevac, the other aircraft can be there in their area in 15 minutes.
Okay.
It's also really cool for we get these calls sometimes like a Amish buggy gets hit by a car and you have like 6 or 7 or 8 patients, and then all of a sudden we were able to get 4 or 5 aircraft on scene within a very short period of time.
Wow.
So that's another, I think, really big strength of our. But sorry to jump in there.
No worries. So we did our first medevac as an organization in 1970, and that kind of started civilian medevac in the U.S. We went from single engine, single rotor, rotor helicopters, Jet Rangers up to Dolphin, and now we're in the 139. We by law, the state police is the primary responder to a scene medevac in the state of Maryland. It's no direct bill, so the cost is shared across the citizens through registration fees and some taxes and things like that. So generally, part of your registration fee for your vehicle goes into a fund. Some of it helps fund us. We partner with our other agencies, Delaware State Police. We partner with Virginia, Pennsylvania, some of the privates as well. So if we're busy or overtasked, we can kick that out to an allied agency. Park Police has a helicopter there around the D.C. area.
Yeah. Got a chance to fly with those guys. Great program and great guys.
Yeah.
So I'm here actually today.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, so we have a great relationship with them, especially around the capital area.
Yeah, they back us up often sometimes with medevacs.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, you guys have a unique operating environment, given the proximity to D.C. and I think of the Naval Academy. I'm sure that brings some unique circumstances for you guys. In fact, we got a chance to tour that with my boys. What a cool facility. You talk about the history, man. The history of that place is absolutely amazing. What's it like having that in your operational area?
I mean, not from the back seat. It's just super cool seeing all that stuff. Constantly flying over it. I'm not sure how that integrates with pilot and airspace with the Naval Academy, if there's any TFRs that come out of there.
Generally with the stadium. So there's a couple of stadiums around the D.C. area that will throw up the stadium TFR on game day. But, Maryland in general, as you said, it's a beautiful state. So flying over the academy and seeing Annapolis in general.
Yeah.
There's so much history in Annapolis and then history in Baltimore. We fly over Fort McHenry on our way inbound to the hospital, and it's just blessed to be able to kind of look out and go,
Yeah.
catching the bay at sunset or sunrise.
Yeah. Going back to your mission profile, you guys talked about, your primary mission is the medevac stuff. You talked about some of the other mission profiles that you guys are responsible for.
Yeah, I mean, so medevac is probably 75, 80% of what we do. Everything else is a mix of airborne law enforcement and search and rescue. And there's a lot of overlap on the search and rescue side, right? Some of those patients, some of those subjects are, law enforcement cases, and it just kind of depends. But for the law enforcement stuff, it's mostly pursuits and stuff like that. They have to go on for a little bit. We kind of respond from ground. So we don't have a proactive patrol element. Now, when we're up in the air, like if we're coming back from a mission or something like that, we're always turned on, engaged, and trying to find work. But we don't like proactively control just because of cost of the aircraft and fleet status and things like that. So for the search and rescue stuff, it's kind of a mix between, let's say, 50-50 land-based SAR. So it's everything based on lost person behavior, and it's your dementia subjects, your autistic kids, your things like that, versus the maritime SAR. So it's we have a huge area of the Chesapeake Bay, and we'll cover out to 12 miles out into the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
That is, it's a lot, and being proficient in both of those things it can be a challenge. And then that's not even including like the hoisting side of it, right? Because the end of the SAR is the and rescue. So
right. From your perspective as a pilot, what's that been like? Servicing those SAR missions offshore.
Thankfully, I've been not involved with too many beyond sight of land with the state police. So most of mine, a lot over the bay. So the section I worked out of was Easton, so it's very close. You go west towards Annapolis and get a lot of over the bay calls. So the bay can get pretty wide at certain spots, relatively speaking. So you're kind of, depending on the profile you're trying to fly, either I'm more doing a visual search, so I'm searching down low at a lower altitude, or flying at a higher altitude to take advantage of the optics. So it's been pretty interesting. We have the ability to put the camera image that they're looking at in the back up on one of our displays up front. So a lot of times, as we're flying, one of the other pilots is either splitting time between actually visually searching or assisting, like, hey, did you see that in the corner of the picture or something like that? So it brings back that crew coordination element of we're all kind of working together. And one of the things that Adam mentioned, the law enforcement, sometimes it rolls into another one. Hey, we're doing a chase, and now it turns into a medevac, or it turns into a bailout, and it turns into a search and capture, not necessarily search and rescue.
Yeah.
So you're trying to set up the search area and work that. Or
I always thought it's interesting when you could be responsible for finding the suspect. Unfortunately, suspect gets hurt for whatever the reason is, and then you're now flying that same person out who you found, in theory, to the hospital. That's such a weird concept.
Yeah, and there's plenty of cases that even in our SAR world where we're like finding the subject and they are remote, and so we're either landing or putting down one of our crew members by hoist to immediately do the medical care and extraction. And there's some cases where we do that entirely without contacting another first responder on the ground. We just do it solo. So it's a pretty cool mission set.
Yeah, my first hoist so far was just like that. Ground hadn't been able to reach them, and we went out and located them visually, and then conducted the whole extraction prior to
And that was a suspect
getting there. That was a hiker that had fallen.
Okay,
out west.
Yeah,
so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, cool operating environment, neat mission profiles, and sounds like a pretty fun place to work. Given what we've discussed.
One of the real interesting things is the different kind of mission profiles at each section. You get on the eastern shore, you're more at flat land. So in where extreme eastern section, close to Ocean City, you're doing a lot of the Chesapeake Bay and a lot of highway stuff. And then you get out west where they don't fly as much, but their flying is much more technical because the weather is very unpredictable, especially in the wintertime, and then you're up in the mountains and goggles in the mountains and trying to do a search or a rescue is, it's different. Or then you get some of the sections that they don't have the same level of care in their area as some of the others. So you're getting a lot more of a certain thing, than you would in a different place. So each section has its local flavor as a mission, and a little bit as personalities too. From the geographical area too.
Yeah.
So that it's very interesting to go, I'm going to work here and I'm going to get a little bit of this, or I'm going to work at a different location and I'm going to get a little bit of of this other thing.
You brought up weather. What kind of weather considerations do you guys have to take into account? I know it changes from winter to summer, but what's that look like? Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Well, in Maryland and the East Coast, weather, you can get something different, by hour. We have pretty decent weather reporting and weather forecasting around the state, but as you get out west, there's less formal forecasting from a location specific standpoint. And the weather in the mountains, like I said, is that much more unpredictable. On the eastern shore and sort of, kind of metro area east, the relief is pretty consistent from the terrain standpoint. But, you get days where it's just very stable, crappy weather to the normal convective activity or rain showers and things like that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we have the bulk of our hospitals have instrument procedures. So if we get an instrument day, we're still able to do some of what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to a scene becomes much more judgment calls and whether or not we can get where we need to go. But from a section location to the hospital, we're pretty able to affect a mission that way.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've had some interesting. The IFR program for us is something that we really like because it's just we've got the 139 and it's got a lot of capability to do that stuff. So the only thing we really can't do IFR wise is we can't fly into icing. We don't have that. We don't have that kit. But we've had missions that have we've gone out and done a hoist and then transitioned IFR to recover to a hospital because that patient needed to go there. And so it's kind of cool to bring that capability.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge for the citizens of your area, Looking at the folks that are in patrol, their goal is to go to aviation. What does that roadmap look like? How do you make that transition? Obviously, you need to be a medic, but how do you do that?
So we're actually training 3 new guys that just started the other day that all 3 of them got their paramedic as troopers. One of them actually was in my academy class. So when we went through the academy together, he wasn't a paramedic. At some point, he got interested in what we do and was interested in it. So he did his EMT and then he did his paramedic. And a lot of places, you can do a hybrid online versus in person and kind of do a little bit of each. So he was able to make that work through his shift schedule and all the things. And so that's probably a 2-year process to get through, and it takes a lot of dedication. And the cool thing is now we get to bring him in along with the other 2 and really leverage. Those guys have a lot of experience, and Andrew's experience is really valuable for a lot of us. If we're working the same call together, in the same aircraft, right? I might lean on some of his road experience for TFO stuff, and so it allows us to kind of balance those crews out.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's a good perspective. I think guys that are listening that are in patrol wanting to become a paramedic, just take your time. It's patience, like you said, 2 years, and that's just getting paramedic done, and then we have to wait. We're like all police departments, we're hurting, so it's tough then to once you've done paramedic, to get off the road, get out of patrol, and come over to the air unit. So I'm really happy to see those, those 3 guys come over to us.
Yeah.
So it could be 6 months. It could be a year, just, depending on transfer list availability.
Now, is there a way for someone to transition from the medic seat to the pilot seat?
Not formally. I won't say it's impossible, but the bulk of the people that are coming in now, because of the hour requirement for, that we try and put forth for, insurance reasons and for just, experience reasons is is pretty high. So we want generally somebody with at least 1,200 hours to kind of come in as a second in command. So we had 2 sworn members that were pilots. We're down to kind of 1 because the other guy retired, and he's coming back as a civilian pilot. So it's not impossible, but it's not very common.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess given the nature of what you're doing, that makes sense. It's not VFR. It's not a VFR operation. If you're flying in IFR conditions and pretty advanced aircraft, so that totally makes sense. Talking about the selection process, I think you put that program together. Well, actually, let me back up. Going to the request of aviation assets, you think of the patrol folks, and a lot of times they don't have a whole lot of interaction with aviation. They see us flying overhead, but because of where the hangar's at, they just don't get a chance to interact with us a whole lot. And oftentimes don't really know what they should request us for. Sometimes you get a call and you roll your eyes. You're like, man, that's not a good use of our abilities. And then there's other times guys aren't calling because they're maybe intimidated to call or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
So you put some training together to kind of train folks on the capabilities of aviation and when to call. Can you talk about that and how that's helped?
Yeah, so I put together a couple years ago a training program, basically drawing on a lot of the lessons from TFO classes around the country and kind of how other places do it. Because, one of the common trends that we were seeing is that we were getting calls very late. This is kind of aggregate of all departments that we work for. But a lot of times we were like, man, we're out of ideas. Let's call the air unit and see if they can find them. And by that point, they have, it's been 30, 40 minutes since they last saw the suspect. And maybe they don't have a perimeter, or maybe they have like a minimal perimeter. And you're like, at this point, it's, you sometimes find, you find the dumb ones, but the smart ones are gone, so a lot of that focused on, how do we do perimeters better? And how do we maximize? Because some places you might only have 2 troopers in a county. So good luck with that. Good luck with that perimeter without getting some help. And, so you've got to be able to maximize the available resources. So you got to be able to use like roving perimeters and things like that. So a large portion of my, the training was kind of aimed at that and pretty much how to go like, all right, the minute somebody runs, the minute you have an indication, don't wait, call us. It gives us time to do everything. We listen to radios at the sections all the time. So, I mean, if we hear it right then and there, even before the phone call goes up and through the actual formal chain of command, we're tugging the aircraft out and we're usually getting going. So we'll be there pretty quick. And if we're in the air, we'll be there super fast. So the biggest thing is just like, hey, give us that call as early as possible. And we've definitely had some success with that. And that's it's improved our numbers. And I think, one of my other big projects is trying to modernize some of the equipment on the aircraft. So trying to change out our mapping system, our downlink system. And I think that will be the next kind of big wave that will, right when we can start putting that video footage at the DO's desk and he can see what's going on the pursuit. That'll be a big win. So
yeah, I think, most folks don't really understand what you can and can't see on the camera system, especially in IR. So when you start transmitting stuff with downlink and they can actually see it, it changes their I guess expectation of what we can and can't do. Yeah,
I did some training recently where we were doing a training for search managers. So we're all the guys that basically run these search and rescue operations. And we brought an aircraft out, and I was able to take up one of the guys who's an experienced search manager. He's in our canine unit, and I was able to put him at the TFO console because we're in training now. And so I gave him a quick primer on how to run the camera, and then I was like, all right, cool, you run the search. And just listening to all the radios and all the things going on, and we got done, and he was like, "That is wildly different than I pictured that it was." He's like, "That is, it's so like disorienting to like look through the camera and then look outside. I mean, try to figure." And he's playing it on hard mode because I just gave him a 5-minute intro class, but it was very eye opening for him to see that, and I wish we could give every patrol officer that opportunity.
Right. So I'd love when officers would come up on ride-alongs because they could see. Like a common request when you're searching for a suspect on the camera, they're asking you to look out the window and tell them how their perimeter is. Well, it's like if I come off the camera, it's really hard for me to come back on and kind of keep track of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Or if you're on a suspect and they're asking you to come off to look for something else, like if I come off the screen there's a good chance that that suspect can do something, I'm going to lose him.
Yeah.
So when they come up and actually see it firsthand, how difficult it is to go between the two and why you don't do certain things versus others.
Yeah.
It was great, you know? So I think we had a lot of success with that. But, you know, the fact that you put a training together on requesting air support, what's appropriate and what's not, I think is great because it's just a lack of information, right, for the most part. So.
Well, and even, you know, that even covers our medical mission too, because, you know, the first arriving trooper can sit there and go, ooh, start aviation and go ahead and get that ball rolling on us too. And we've had plenty of cases where, you know, officers have gotten in trouble and their shift partners, without knowing what's going on, right? Maybe they just heard a radio call, like a yell on the radio. They're getting us started for that. And so then we're able to be there when we're needed to, you know, medevac that trooper or even the suspect if that's what's required. So.
Right. Going back to the training process, given the complexities of your guys' job as a trooper medic, how long does it take for the typical training candidate to become a successful TFO or aircrew member?
Yeah, it's roughly about a year and a half. I just finished the crew chief process, and I came in January, and I finished in July.
Okay.
January of 23, and then finished July of 24. So I think the training program is set up pretty well. You know, we'll transfer in. You'll spend about 3 to 4 months, classroom, TFO ride-alongs, going out, meeting other units. We rode to some of the fire departments, you know, to make those relationships with the guys on the ground that are, you know, our primary customers calling us. Did some hospital rotations, water egress, survival training, and then you'll get assigned a field trainer. You'll get out to the section, do 8 weeks there with them, and then you'll come back up to Martin State. You'll meet with aircrew training. We have a cabin trainer, which is pretty neat. It's a cabin replica of a airframe that I believe just didn't pass inspection or something along those lines. So it has everything in there, the cardiac monitor, ventilator, everything's identical. And then also a medic unit that we keep up at headquarters, and we can do training simulations in there, all the way from, you know, bringing the patient from the medic unit over to the cabin trainer. So after our 8 weeks out at the section with our field trainer, we'll come back up and we'll have medical scenarios that we'll have to pass, law enforcement, you know, mission system equipment that we'll have to pass, mission mapping, maybe just some discussion with aircrew training about this scenario, kind of like a table talk, round table discussion. And then we'll go out into the field, maybe back to that section that we trained at, or maybe a different section. And that'll be, for me, it was about a year. Well, about 6 months to 9 months, and then came back for the crew chief selection upgrade process.
Constant training.
Yeah.
So started that, and it's very similar to testing out for rescue tech, just different medical scenarios, that incorporate other items that we work. And then for crew chief, I just go back to the section with another field trainer for another 2 months. And I was lucky enough to hit my hoist training as well this year. So in the day, I got pendant operator qualified for daytime, and then just last month, nighttime qualified. And then came back in July and did the test out process that was similar for RT, but for crew chief at the time. So a lot of training. I mean, it's just constant. You know, you think you got, all right, well, I got the paramedic thing down, you know, and then it's, all right, well, now the SAR thing, and then it's airspace. You know, when can I have a conversation with the crew? When can I not? You know, when do I need to be aware of where we're flying? And then mission system equipment, and then, you know, now we've rolled out blood last year, and then canine care, and it's just constant.
Yeah.
Constant training, which is great. You know, one thing Kurt mentioned before that really clicked in my head was coming into aviation. You know, you're surrounded by people that are so passionate about the job. And being a new guy, you know, you can sit at the desk in the morning and you look at the schedule and, you know, you see, oh, hey, that person at Trooper 5 is working, or this person at Trooper 6 or Trooper 1, you know, hey, I'm going to pick up the phone and just chat with them for a few minutes. And it's always every day, you know, you can just talk with somebody and get that subject matter expert experience passed down to you. And I remember in patrol, you know, people either promote or they go to other units. So sometimes you don't really see that SME so much in patrol, whereas in the air unit, you're really just surrounded by guys and gals that are willing to share so much knowledge.
I'm assuming, based on what you're saying, there's no term limits for you guys as trooper medics, right? You're not saying that after 5 years you have to go back to the field or anything like that?
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Yeah, no, it's actually, it can be very hard if you want to get out of the unit because we usually need medics to come in.
Yeah.
And there's not that many of them. So yeah, a lot of guys, like, if you want to, you can stay in the unit your entire career. Now, if you choose to like test for promotion, there's a chance you could get promoted out. And the higher you go, I mean, there's only so many first sergeant spots in aviation. There's only so many lieutenant spots. So the higher you go, the more that risk is that you get popped out.
Mm-hmm.
And we do sometimes get like commissioned officers, like captains, lieutenants, kind of dropped in from the outside coming in too. And, that's interesting. And, the good ones that I've worked with and for have always listened to us, right? And really been like, they're like, I have, no aviation background. I'm now in charge of an aviation unit or in charge of a large component of it. And the ones that we really like are the ones that will sit there and listen to the experience that we have and go like, okay, I trust you,
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the challenges that across the world in these programs we face, right? Bringing somebody in as a supervisor who has no experience in that industry is really difficult. We talk about SWAT. Like, you would not bring a supervisor to the SWAT team that has no tactical experience. Yeah. But we do that in aviation, expect them to be successful. And I think as an industry, we put some good training together. In the APSA, the supervisor course is good. But it's a challenge, and I think it's to the detriment to a lot of units to have somebody come in who has no experience and, doesn't understand the culture of aviation. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
And the culture of aviation is interesting too, because, I mean, once we're in the aircraft, to a certain degree, once we're in the aircraft, we're all equals and we're all on the same team because, and so it would be interesting for me. Like when I remember as a new guy, I would come in sometimes and, maybe the sergeant that I'm working for, who's my supervisor, but he has less medical experience than me. And so like, he's my boss until we get on a call. And then all of a sudden I'm running the medic stuff, but he's still more experienced on the aircraft and has more experience as a TFO. So we just swap roles back and forth based on what's the best thing for the mission that we're doing right now.
Yeah, that's cool. Checking the door for the benefit of the mission.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
important.
And there's a lot of challenges too that aren't, that the system doesn't place a supervisor in the best position either, because, I would guess that a guy who's a supervisor of a barrack, if, something comes out for every police car, he's only responsible for a dozen or whatever. But when something comes out for the airplane that needs to be fixed, they're all yours, and they're all expensive.
Right.
So expecting somebody to come in and now run the unit and integrate in all of those things, plus manage the biggest budget of the state police, it's and try and understand. So the challenge is, I either need to, right away realize that the director of maintenance is the director of maintenance for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't need to understand maintenance. I can't.
Right.
At the level that he does.
Yeah.
So I need to put a certain amount of trust in what he says.
Yep.
The guys who run, the medic side, the guys who run the flight side, I have to integrate with them and sit them in the room and go, okay, you guys know what you're doing.
Who's my experts? How do I use them?
Yeah.
Right.
I imagine being a supervisor new to aviation with no experience, being called to the carpet and asking why you're paying for a $250,000, engine upgrade or whatever the thing is. It's really hard to explain if you don't have the experience to understand why that's happening,
Right, and also the whole thing of it's a different mentality, and it kind of costs what it costs. You can't say, okay, hey, I'm going to get a different engine that costs this much when I need 10 more engines. You just gotta have to go, well, I need 10 engines.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, there's no way it's not my money. It's nothing it's not a mistake that I made in mismanaging my budget. The helicopter's broken. I need 10 of them.
Right.
So
yeah,
this is what it costs. So,
sure.
Citizens of the state, legislature, sorry, this budget's going to be overrun by another $10 million this year.
Yeah. I think what's so cool about your guys' program, you talk about rescue missions you're a part of.
the general public really appreciates those missions and the favorable outcomes that come from those. But looking at that, any missions come to mind or incidents you guys have been a part of that were really impactful because of the positive outcome that came from that?
I think one thing that I'm particularly proud of is, just whether you're in Cumberland or Ocean City and you call for us, you're going to get the same crew, same training, same whole blood program, same systems capabilities. That's one thing. Nothing really mission specific, but we often have people that we've flown either stop by the hangar or we'll see them on outreach, and that really sends it home.
Yeah,
I know for most of the guys I work with, and it's really nice. Sometimes having a lot of specialty centers in Maryland, sometimes we'll pick up some kids that just were dealt crappy cards from the get-go, and we'll take them to those specialty centers, and if it's a patch or a picture with a helicopter to something we can do, I mean, that to me sometimes is way more meaningful than I think something as aircrew. That's something we all share and pretty proud of.
Yeah, for sure.
But no specific one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, particularly the rural portions of the state where we use very heavily, if you walk around, if you stop at your 7-Eleven or your Wawa in a black flight suit, somebody is going to come to you and tell you a story about some time that somebody they know or themselves were flown and we impacted their lives. And that's really cool, and it's cool to get those stories, and it's cool to sometimes have patients stop by and go like, hey, I'm alive because of you guys and what we do. And I think it's an incredibly humbling thing to just get to have the opportunity to be there to help people in that way.
Yeah. And law enforcement in general, it doesn't happen very often, right? Until you go to aviation and roles change a little bit. So yeah, I could see what you're saying. It's nice to be a part of something positive and favorable and see somebody come back healthy after you saw them and maybe their worst day ever,
Yeah.
Pretty impactful,
Yeah. Also just knowing, I mean, gosh forbid, officer gets hurt or anything like that. Just knowing that we have that capability 24/7 all throughout the state to help, the guys and gals on the ground is really also really meaningful to us.
Yeah, for sure.
Drives a lot of our training, I think.
Yeah, I've flown troopers, deputies, officers, and it's nice to be able to be that safety blanket, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I tell people, right, even in my air support class, I tell them, it's like, if you call us for your pursuit or whatever, you also have an ambulance overhead of your pursuit.
Yeah.
So if something happens, we're here and we're available to do it. And but I mean, you really got, we were talking about this the other day at work, but like you aviation safety has to really factor in on those, because those are always going to be very high stress.
Oh, sure.
And you're like, oh man, I got to get down to get my guy right there who maybe I just saw get shot. Those can be really, really tough.
Yeah. For you, I think of that exact scenario, pursuit that terminates in a crash, and it's a deputy, a trooper that you may or may not know on the ground, and the risk of maybe not doing a proper recon as you're looking for the good LZ or those types of things really come up. Have you found ways to combat that as you've been in this position?
I think most of the pilots are pretty good at just being the bus driver mentally and just, not detaching, but going, okay, I'm just, whatever. Obviously, we all have those calls that hit home for whatever, demographic, a PED or something like that, okay, I'm, at the end of the mission, you walk away and you kind of take that deep breath and go, oh, hopefully that one is going to work out.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's in mission, we're all pretty good at, at the game face. It's afterwards, and these guys, in the case of, or in the process of writing their report, we all, hey, that guy from yesterday, what's the status? Or, because they're in contact with, with the other people that they didn't know that work in the trauma center, or we have guys whose, spouses work with, work in the trauma center. So it's kind of, some of the interesting ones, we kind of like, hey, is that arm still attached kind of thing?
Yeah.
But, it's there, it's the other side, which is itself too of listening to the radio constantly. I mean, that was a thing for me. I'm like, I just got to walk away because, you never know that, like, as a non, EMS person natively, like that the state, the wheels are falling off of it, all over the state. It's like, I gotta take a break. I don't want to hear the radio going off constantly. I lived near a firehouse, went in a rural area, and it was like, once in a while it would go, and mostly it was, somebody's house on fire. But, nowadays, like, my gosh, I've learned a lot more than I ever wanted to know about speaking the medical side. And it's good. It's good. It's the same way with the rescue side. We get involved in the mission. We start working together. So when somebody points that out, I'm like, okay, I know, right? I know to set up an orbit that's kind of conducive to what we're doing, because we train it and we practice it. But the flip side of the mental side does have its, it's there, it's real.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, it's been almost 2 hours and we haven't gotten through most of what I had written down for an outline, but going through your guys' program is interesting. You guys do a lot of unique things. Just the training that's required to get to where you are is impressive. I think we could spend probably the 2 hours just talking about that, But thank you guys for joining us on the podcast, and thanks for, what you're doing, because it's a sacrifice, a lot of holidays, weekends, nights away from the family. And of course we're doing some stuff that's fun. We talk about, man, we're getting paid to do this, and the positive outcomes from these calls, which is pretty neat. But man, just thank you guys for joining us, and I think it's time to go find some beers.
Absolutely.
Good.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We'll look forward to seeing you at the next social event and having you on the podcast again.
Oh, sounds good.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors. Thank you for joining us for this two-part series on the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast and in partnership with Vertical Valor Magazine. In this two-part series, I had the privilege of speaking with members of the Maryland State Police at the ECHO 2024 conference in Richmond, Virginia. We explored the critical role of networking and education in public safety and explored the personal journeys of our guests into the fields of aviation and law enforcement. Throughout our discussion, we uncovered valuable insights on the responsibilities of trooper paramedics and the challenges of maintaining proficiency in a large unit, as well as the unique considerations that come with caring for our canine companions during transport. The importance of collaboration among agencies during emergencies was a recurring theme, as was the need for continuous training and experience in the field. We focused on various aspects of public safety aviation, including canine transportation missions, the ongoing challenges of recruitment and retention, paramedic training, multi-agency responses, and experiences with DUI enforcement. Our guests drew from their rich military backgrounds, adding depth to our understanding of the complexities involved in operations with the Coast Guard and other partner agencies. We appreciate your time and hope you found this conversation as enlightening as we did. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in for our next episode, where we continue to explore the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.